Hello and welcome to Collapse Club, where we discuss the question, how are we to live in the time of collapse? I'm David Baum in Seattle. This is Ugo Bardi in Florence, Italy. Ugo is a scientist, an historian, and a philosopher. He teaches physical chemistry at the University of Florence. He is a member of the Club of Rome, the sponsors of the famous Limits to Growth. He writes the blog, The Seneca Effect. The link to that is in the description below. Hello, Ugo. How are things in Florence today?
Well, Florence is quiet. We're waiting for something to happen, but right now, I think the worst place to be in the world is Western Europe. And the worst place in Western Europe is Italy. And the worst place in Italy is Florence. Nothing is happening, but the economy of Florence is all based on tourism. And tourism has been destroyed by the war, by the epidemics and things like that. So people are, this is unfortunately a city of zombies, because most people here make a living out of tourism. And we lost most of the foreign tourists. So it's going to be a collapse. We are discussing about collapse. Florence is facing an economic collapse, bad one.
You say zombies. I'm sure that's a figure of speech, but do you?
Of course.
Do you feel that bad energy in the streets?
Well, zombies is somebody who still is dead, but still thinks he or she is alive. So in Florence, if you own a restaurant, say, you think you still have a restaurant. You can, the tourists will come back, and then you will make money again. But really, you are a zombie. Your restaurant is a zombie restaurant because it is undead, because it's still on. Maybe you can still prepare food, but the whole system was geared on something like 2 million tourists per year. Enormous. Florence is a city of 500,000 people. You had 2-3 million tourists coming. In a sense, it's not so bad because there were too many, but at the same time, collapse is painful for many people, very painful.
Do you see the system not coming back to what it used to be?
I don't think so. The system is reacting to some physical constraints which existed, have been existing for a long time. The system needs cheap fuels to run planes, and planes bring tourists to Florence. Not just tourists. I mean, the whole economic activity is based on cheap fuels. Now, let me tell you something. If you people hearing like collapses, nobody likes. Some people call themselves collapsologists. They study collapse, but it's like you are, I don't know, I'm a mortician. You don't have to like what you work with, right? But anyway, you have to know what you're doing. Like you study cancer. You don't like it, but you have to know what you're doing. And so the situation is very bad, because not only tourism, Italy is a transformation economy. We have industries and agriculture, but we need to import commodities like energy, minerals, metals, and fertilizers, and every sort of thing. There is a working industry which transforms these commodities which are imported from abroad, then they are turned into finished products and sold. And that's the way Italy survives. Now, I had here in this room yesterday a friend of mine who works in a company that makes glass manufacturers. It's one of the best companies in this field in Italy. It's a very competent people, and they make beautiful glass. If you come here, I can take you to see it, if it will still exist, but maybe it will not. Why? Because the company has adapted to a certain situation, and you work, you make a little profit, and you keep going, and you buy glass, you buy electric power, you make things, you sell them to customers. But if the cost of the energy increases, not of 50%, but 500%, so 5 times as much, then there is no way to keep the company alive. He was telling me that the company loses 100,000 euros, about $100,000 per day, every day.
That's very serious.
Yeah, and the problem is not this, is turn off everything, turn off the light, and you come back when things will be better. No, because if you have big ovens where you have, I've seen it, and it's fantastic. You have enormous vats of molten glass.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot turn it off. Turn it off, you can. Then it freezes and you throw it away. You cannot do anything anymore with that. The company is dead, completely dead. You don't restart it. And the competence of the people who work in that company takes decades of work to create people who know how to do this. Then you disband them, disappear, and it is gone. It is collapse. You see collapse. It is the way it works. You need, this is called the Seneca collapse, that it grows, things grow slowly, then go down fast.
So you see this collapse happening
in many fields.
Do you think this is a result of the pandemic in particular? Are there larger causes? And what about the war in Ukraine? Is that adding to our trouble?
My impression is that we have symptoms rather than causes. My impression. I mean, I understand that the situation is complicated. I'm not the one who can say, oh, it is this or this, that. I can propose some ideas because I tend to spend some of my time modeling systems, which is something the scientists do. And the story is that some models tell you about this Seneca effect, what I call the Seneca effect. The Seneca effect is taken from something that the Roman philosopher Seneca, he lived in 1st century of our era, so about 2,000 years ago. He said at some moment, it was easy to be a scientist at that time. You have little competition. And he said, I noticed something. Things take a lot of time to grow, but then go down fast. And this, I made a model. I can show the model to you. Give me 2 seconds.
Very well.
This is the Seneca effect. And this is what Seneca said. I don't know if you can read it, but it says, growth is sluggish, but the way to ruin is rapid. And this is the result. You see this curve is the result of the calculations, some calculation. This applies to many systems. Like this could describe the glass-making company of my friend. It took 30 years to arrive here. And then in 1 year, maybe we go all the way down and gone. You see, I had a sweater because in Italy right now it's a little cold and we are running out of gas. So, but anyway, not so cold.
Why do things work that way?
Because it was written already by Shakespeare when he said, bad things come in battalions. I think it was in which work by Shakespeare? I don't remember it. Anyway, one of his works, and it's typical of the system. The system has many connected elements which work acting on each other. Now you see it easily that normally what happens is that for a certain time the system work in concert. They enhance each other, and so you can grow. When something starts going wrong, then suddenly the system decides that every element of the system works to destroy it. And that happens. It's a very normal. If this curve, you see in the many companies, you see the budget or the stock market value of a company goes like this, then bang, goes down. Because company, you have a company, you have a lot of things that must work together to keep a company alive. Like a big company, like the one I was discussing with you, budget of 100 million euros per year. It's a large company. I mean, not like Pfizer, just to mention really large companies. But you need everything to work. Now you start putting something in the wheel, in the spokes of the wheel, and then you don't destroy just the spoke of the wheel, you destroy the whole car, and that is the way things work. You can model it, but something that you can experience every day. Build a house of cards, then take out the card, everything collapse.
So complex systems are sensitive to small disruptions?
Exactly. That's what in climate science you call the tipping points. Climate science says the risk is that the whole system will move to a different state. It is not going to happen tomorrow, not next year. I think we don't have to worry so much about that. We have right now we have things to worry, much more immediate. But problem is that the climate system is a classic system that could go through a transition like this and actually should go in reverse, because you increase the temperature rather than reducing it. But it may happen, and that would make a big effect on the ecosystem. So we are surrounded by things which keep changing, and sometimes they change very rapidly. And when they change very rapidly, they take human beings by surprise, and human beings react in ways which are also unexpected and strange. So to go back to your question, is this an effect of the Ukraine war or the corona epidemics? The corona and the war are results of the human mind mainly, but the human mind reacts to changes in the system. We already had a big problem with depletion of mineral resources. It was kept stable, more or less, by various operations that maintain the system in a certain path of growth. Then what's happening at some moment, it was clear that the system could not do that anymore. You cannot keep squeezing the lemon. No? Like you want to make a lemonade, you squeeze a lot of lemon, go squeeze. Some moment anyway, it's over. You can squeeze even more, and so that's what's happening now. The system has been squeezed to death almost, and people's reaction, the leaders' reaction, is unpredictable, violent, bad in general.
I see. Yes, this is a very important point, I think. It's not just about the depletion of oil. It's not just about the advent of a pandemic virus. It's not even just about the a ground war in Europe for the first time in 70 or 80 years. It's about how people react to those stimulants, the chaos that people feel, the taking away of their feeling of security causes human reactions, which then snowball and create their own reality. That's how I would put it. Does that sound right to you?
Yeah, exactly. That's the point. We people still reason with the mind. That is all the same. The system changes, but people's minds are the same. So they tend to overreact to to do things which are stupid, absolutely stupid. You may have read in my blog, the Seneca Effect, I have a series of posts on why leaders do such stupid things. And there is no answer. It's the only thing you can you can do this only for relatively old, ancient story. You know, for instance, about in Italy we had Mr. Mussolini. He ruled Italy for 22 years, 23 actually, and he was a smart guy by all means, not stupid, but nobody knew exactly why he was taking some decisions. I make this example. I think it's not so well known outside Italy, but I think it's very paradigmatic why leaders do huge mistakes. So, in 1940, Italy, the government of Italy, decided to attack Greece. Greece is very close to Italy. Well, we just have to cross the Adriatic Sea. It's not so far. In 1940, it was a weak country, Greece, much smaller than Italy, so it would seem easier. You suppose you are the dictator of Italy, so it should be easy to attack Greece and conquer it. Mm. So you take this decision, but at the time people didn't know why. Why Greece? Why now? Why in certain conditions? Because then Mussolini decided, sent the troops to attack Greece over the mountains of Epirus in winter. Can you imagine that? In the winter of 1940, as a disaster. Eventually they won, but it was extremely expensive in terms of casualties and cost, and it destroyed the reputation of Mussolini himself and of Italy as a big power, as a great power. Before Greece, people believed, "Oh, we are a great power. Then we cannot easily defeat a country which is 1/5 of Italy." And then now we know what happened. We know what happened because we have a diary kept by Mussolini's son-in-law, the man who had married his daughter. And he was working as foreign minister, something like our Secretary of State. It's Mr. Ciano, it was the name. So he was writing every day. The Duce said this, the Duce decided that. And so you see, it's complete randomness. It's all sorts of internal logic. People were doing things not because there was a strategy, but because we're trying to impress other people, to make the big boss happy. And the big boss loved to show that he was a strong man. He took decision. I decided the troops would go in winter. But this winter, Duce, it is winter. No, nobody there. Why don't we wait until spring? No. And that's the way gigantic mistakes are done. Gigantic, enormous.
Do you think Putin has made a gigantic mistake in the invasion of Ukraine?
That we will know in a few years, supposing that maybe someone in the government will keep a diary of what happened. Because right now we don't know, we have no idea of what led the Russian government to decide to attack Ukraine. No, we don't know. It's okay, you read a newspaper, because Putin is evil. Oh, could be, maybe, or maybe not, or maybe some other force, or maybe he was paid by someone to take a bad decision, or maybe, I have no idea. It is one big problem that we have. There is this, that people then, one leader does something, then people, oh, he's very smart because he did, or he's very evil, depending which side. But you don't know why. Like when Mr. Bush decided to attack Iraq, we said because we know that they have weapons of mass destruction. that they know that there were no such thing as weapons of mass destruction. Or maybe they were deluded into thinking that there were such weapons of mass destruction. But the decision was taken in a closed door room where we probably never know exactly why.
Do you think the war is going to expand?
As long as it's going to take.
Do you think the war in Ukraine is going to expand to be a general war in Europe and become World War III?
I wish I could know. I am afraid that it could happen, but nobody knows, because we don't know the mechanism that led to the war. So we don't know what goes on in the mind of the people who can decide whether to expand the war or not. And so it could happen. Honestly, I hope not. I pray that it won't happen, but if it happens, it is extremely bad for everybody, and especially for the Russians. I mean, if the war starts, Russia will be wiped out from this planet. That's and also other people, but it will be bad for us too. But extremely bad for the Russians.
I think that was a surprise to observers in the West. To me and people like me who are generally well informed, but the consequences for the people of Russia was not in the dialogue at the beginning, but now it turns out that they are going to suffer as much as people in the West or more.
If it stops now, which may happen, then Russia is in an advantageous position, because they have oil, they have gas, they have coal, they have uranium, not in Russia, but near Russia. And they have a functioning agriculture, so they can survive. Will not be nice. They won't have McDonald's, they won't have Coke, they won't have this kind of stuff. They have no more vacations abroad, but they will survive. The bad things is Europe, Western Europe. We don't have gas, a little in the north. We don't have coal. We a little uranium, but very little. We have coal in Germany, but we are not self-sufficient. Especially the European agriculture is not self-sufficient. So you are in a lucky position. Do you know of a little home near you where you live that could move to Seattle? Because yeah. In Italy we are 60 million. We live because we import food. But in order to import food, we must export something. It's not like Russia can export oil. We don't have oil. We cannot export. We can only export finished products. And if we don't have oil, we cannot produce anything. It's a bit, place yourself in my shoes, and you see inside my t-shirt, and you'll see that it's a war zone.
The breakdown of the global system of trade already is suffered because of the pandemic, and now is threatened by war. And that is an existential threat to the nations of Western Europe. That's what I hear you saying.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. And I will say something more. Maybe we will survive that. It may not be so bad as could be. But from the cultural viewpoints, it's terrible. Real terrible. Because by all means, Russia is a European country. They think they're Chinese sometimes, but they are European. And what Russia did for the European culture is a large contribution. And now it's been destroyed, eliminated, demonized. We can, in Europe, we cannot anymore play, I don't know, Tchaikovsky. We cannot read anymore Dostoevsky, which people who existed in 19th century, they were not, they're not friends of Putin. And I think this is horrible, truly horrible. It's a sensation of true horror because we may suffer, we will be poorer. It's fine. We can be poorer. I don't care. I don't want to. I mean, I would like to be rich, but okay, if you cannot be, it's okay. But which I find horrible too is to lose this connection, this inter-European connection. Makes me really sick.
So you're finding there's a prejudice now against Russian cultural artifacts, music,
absolutely,
and literature?
Absolutely. Don't you notice it in the States?
We don't have culture here to speak of, so it's hard to tell what's happening.
Another point. But here, what I think is truly horrible. It's a university are severing the Western European universities are severing the contacts with the Russian universities, which is so completely, basically, fundamentally wrong, because university is not about politics. University is a change, science. In science we're all the same. They're Russian, Ukrainian, Chinese, American. It's science. We are scientists, and now you decide that those scientists on the other side on the Eastern Europe, they are not like you. They are you assume that they are inferior because you don't want to contact them, and that's it's hateful. Awful.
That's awful. You mention in one of your blog posts, and you say it facetiously, I assume, that one explanation for leaders' behavior is they have been consumed by chthonic demons.
Chthonic. And you know what is chthonic?
Yes, it's
chthonic is underground. Is from a Greek word. Yeah. It's the origin of the Cthulhu mythos, Lovecraft. So yes. Lovecraft writes about this creature that he calls Cthulhu, but he says Cthulhu is a chthonic deity.
That's from under the ground, having to do with the underworld. But
Dave, I don't know, but I have a feeling something evil, something that I cannot explain, or maybe there is a reason, but that goes beyond I thought what simple human beings could do. It's really an evil force which is devouring people's brains. Maybe they really have a monster inside here, and that makes them do the worst things. I suspect it seriously.
You also, in another blog post, characterize the virus as a demonic presence. I think your point is that humans seek out demons. They want to put things in that position as an explanation of the bad things that happen.
Demons are all in our heads. Yeah, the demon. Yeah, I think they exist in our heads. It's the very meaning of demon is a force in Greek. Daimon is something, a force that you cannot control. And we use this term as if there were really devils with horns and a tail, but really it is in our heads. And that's, you see the rise of the demons in our world. Evil walks around us.
By the changes in human behavior, that's exactly the sign. Yeah.
Exactly. And one of the devil's names is propaganda. And I think people are doing things with propaganda, which is truly, truly evil, in my opinion.
What's an example of that, please?
Well, it's this is what we're saying. You convince people, my colleagues in the university, that they need to sever the connections with the Russian or university. It's not right. But because they're convinced by propaganda. We have to do this. We have to do this. We have to do this, and then eventually they are possessed by the demonic entity, and my university didn't do that yet, But some Italian university, Dutch universities, German university, they decided that from now on, our professors, researchers, students, they are forbidden to have contacts with Russian researchers. This is evil. And the result of propaganda.
I see. I think we have stumbled on a very interesting topic that I hope we will discuss at another time. We're reaching the end of our time for today. But what I see you talking about is a contest between rationality and chaos, or between truth and propaganda, or between seeking something real and surrendering to a story of evil. Maybe you just have a word about that contrast to say goodbye for today.
It is especially bad for people like me. I am a scientist. I spent my career. I don't even know. It's a little bit magniloquent to say I spent my career looking for truth, but that's the job of the scientist. Scientist seeks truth. We try to do our best, but honestly, I've seen science destroyed, really destroyed by propaganda. There is very little. There's still a core of scientists who still seek the truth, but really, science has been corrupted by money, and that's the situation right now.
Very good. All right. Well, thank you for, that's not a very good result, but thank you for stating it so succinctly. I appreciate it.
We do what we can, but we keep looking for the truth. I'm sure you, Dave, you're doing the same. I'm sure the people listening to us are doing the same. So we keep going, and we never give up. Living in a shelter, anti-atomic shelter, it could help.
Ugo Bardi, thank you for joining me today. Thank you to the people who joined us on the live stream and to the people who have watched the recording. Thank you. This is Collapse Club. I'm David Baum. Until we meet again, farewell. All right.